right around this time. You're probably relatively early on in your therapy, maybe halfway through, potentially something like that. And you've probably come across this thought. How come I could potentially feel better after I do some things in therapy, but my pain can still return back later? Why won't it just stay? And you know, for some of you it will. You know, maybe your injury wasn't that significant, or maybe you hadn't been there that long, so you just, every time you come in, you just get better and better and better. But then many of you who will be watching this will find, my pain can return back later. Why is that? First of all, don't be frustrated with that. Just know that it's part of an expectation of ours, especially early on. But in all my years of being a therapist, I've mostly come across 4 reasons why I believe that that could happen. The first of which is maybe you've just got a really deep restriction, you know, what I call the deep booger in the clinic. So for example, you've got something way down here in your hip, you do some leg raises and you're starting to take some of the tightness out of that, and you do a handful of those, then you call it a day, and you find that later on that it still tightens back up again. Well, maybe again, just plain and simple, you just didn't get deep enough to get it all out. So what's the solution if you have the deep restriction? Is going to be the intensity knob. Work harder, work deeper, get in that extra set or two, work to a higher fatigue, do it more often, things like that. You get to the deeper restriction, you potentially might be more sore for it, which is a different video clip on how to fix soreness. But in terms of actually going in there, you find the deeper you can go, the longer your relief will last. Second reason we found is maybe your restriction has just been there for quite some time. Maybe it's one of those things that you've had the pain maybe for maybe months or last year or so, but maybe this actual injury that created it might even go back even further than that, maybe even into childhood potentially. Well, the body has a way of trying to keep a status quo. There's even fancy little nerve endings within our joints, muscles, ligaments, and tendons. They're called proprioceptors, and their main job is to keep things kind of as is, which is really great if everything is good. That's the person who says, I can go work for a job on the weekend, hurt my back, but by Monday comes around, it's kind of already back to normal again. Well, that's because the body likes to keep that status quo. But if your body has had something out of alignment, an abnormal tension in it or something like that, for quite some time, then you will find every time we're trying to pull something in, it tries to knock it right back out of whack again, right out of balance. And just know again, that's very normal and expected. If you've ever heard sentences or things like, how long does it typically take to change a habit? We find typically in that research, you're in kind of the 3 to 4 week period of time. So there's probably a good reason why your therapist is saying, remember, this isn't just a 1 week program or a 2 week program. Remember, most people are going to be in it for an average of good 4 weeks, and some of you with more significant problems even longer than that. So just know every time you're pulling it in, there's that natural work back, and you can be sore from that and so forth. But just know again, within that, your job is to keep on plugging, keep on working on that. The secret to that is consistency. So if you find you do something and you for 10 reps or 10 minutes of work and you find you feel better for 2 hours, then maybe that's your body's way of saying you need to do that 10 minutes every 2 hours. Or maybe you need to up it to 20 minutes and see if that lasts longer. So that's the second thing. Third is some environmental cause. Maybe your leg raise makes you feel better, for example, but you go back to work and sit in this terrible chair for the next 8 hours that messes it back up again. Well, if that's the case, we need to know about that chair. Maybe it's the sitting posture you have. Maybe it's how you bend or how you lift or how you sleep and so forth. That's why we always have a session called Life Skills somewhere within the program. So make sure that you, in your time of therapy, you have accomplished that session as well, where we address a lot of those things. And I'll give you a hint on that. What you think to be the correct answer on your positions and so forth that is correct might not be the actual correct answer. For example, tall posture isn't always correct for everybody. Some people need to slump. That's one thing called in the life skills session. And the fourth reason I found out why a pain can return back later is what I like to call the missing piece. So for example, in a more simple basis, let's say you've got a shoulder problem and you've been working these arm raises, maybe these twists, and the upper half of you is coming into better alignment and you feel a benefit and a relief and your arm feels better from doing that. But maybe you've also got a really tight right hip down there below it and you're never addressing him. You're leaving his tension in the system. Well, his problem, because he connects to this and that, can bring that right back again, right? So this is why you want to make sure you address your whole system, and not just a little part of it with your home program, and you make sure you're addressing it in the clinic. In more extreme cases, the missing piece can also include things that aren't really muscles and joint and skeletons. For example, when I got a kidney stone about a year and a half ago before making this tape. I had some significant back problems, but doing a bunch of leg raises and arm raises ain't going to help that type of thing. That's going to be more of something I just got to get rid of the stone, right? But your therapist will help you to kind of determine if this ever looks like a red flag, if this looks like something that isn't just muscle, joint, and skeleton, or if it's something more significant. So remember those 4 things: deep restriction, in terms of consistency, how long have you had this problem? Environmental causes, make sure you take the life skills session. And the last thing is looking for those missing pieces by addressing the full system. If you've addressed all 4 of those things really well, you're going to find your pain won't keep coming back.